Hello, my name is Zachariah Van Sliders with Old Man Gaming, and this is another horrible game review. Let's start with everybody's favorite, the disclaimers. Number one, I do not get paid for this. So you might hear my dog in the background, you might hear me long pause for a while and not know what to say. I'm not going to go back and edit it. I do not do this professionally. Number two, I do not give games a point score basis. I think they're one of the most subjective forms of art. Therefore, I'm just going to give you an overview of the game, the pros, the cons, and whether or not I'm going to stick with it. Now, the final disclaimer would be that I usually only spend about 6 to 10 hours with these games before I do these reviews. However, in this case, we are doing Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Now, while I just got my hands on Iceborne, I have an absolutely limitless amount of hours in the original Monster Hunter World. That said, I'm going to just start this right off by saying this review is for Iceborne. As much as I would love to go back and give a detailed review of why I love Monster Hunter World and all the beauty of it, I'm just going to say it's one of the best games of 2018-2019. It just is. So I highly recommend you go out and play it. Even if you don't like it, it's worth a shot. It's worth a try. So with that, I want to focus on the DLC Iceborne. So Iceborne itself is an expansion that extends the world of Monster Hunter World. It adds an entire new region to hunt creatures in, the Hoarfrost Reach, which is a basically ice-filled region, although it has probably more depth than any other region in Monster Hunter World. It also adds a slew of new creatures, as well as tons of new subspecies of the original creatures. And then it's got a big old campaign to boot. Now, I certainly haven't gotten through all of it, but I am told it is almost as long as the original game, which, I'm not gonna lie, I put 100 hours in before I completed. The plot is simple again. Basically, the endemic life and monsters in the new world are going crazy. That's your excuse to go out and murder them in sloughs and make coats out of their furs. So there's not a ton of development here, though for some reason, as weird as the story is and as much anime ridiculousness is in it, I tend to find myself caring about the characters in the story, which is pretty impressive in my opinion. In addition to the Hoarfrost Reach and all these new creatures and subspecies, they have also added another home base to work from called Ciliana. Now, the original base was called Astera, and it was very vertical. There was loading screens in between it and a lot of things, and it was hard to functionality was not what they had in mind with this one. Whereas with Ciliana, it's definitely not as much pretty to look at. It's very focal. Like, you can literally just run in a circle around it, hit all the places you need to hit, and then go on a mission, which is nice, not gonna lie. They also include another player room, which is the most in-depth and large room to date. The amount of customization and pet items in this place that literally has zero bearing on the story or game in any way whatsoever is amazing to me that they took the time to put it in there. So this all, however, brings it back to the real focal point of this game, which is the fights with the monsters. Basically, you have to go out, stalk a monster by tracking it through tracks and other traces it leaves behind until you find it. Then you have to fight it. Then it will run away, and you have to track it again. You continue to do this until slaying the monster or capturing the monster, if possible. And then you end up getting a bunch of materials from the quest, which allow you to go back to the smith and forge armors forge them bigger and better, and every armor gets different abilities and different decorations, and they really doubled down on that in this expansion. Obviously, they were thinking about custom builds all the way, because I already built a new piece of armor. It didn't upgrade that far, honestly. There was a lot of points in the upgrade, but it was only 2 levels. So I think what they're trying to do is really like open up the space for you to do custom kind of crazy builds with the abilities that come with the pieces of armor as well as the weapons themselves. But I would be remiss if I did not mention the other changes they've added to the game, such as huge quality of life improvements. They've also added some sort of new movement or new functionality to all of the, I think, 13 or 14 weapons in the game, which is impressive to me, as well as the clutch claw, which I can't tell you how much fun the clutch claw is. It is a learning curve. It's definitely not as easy as they made it look in the trailers. There's really a timing. You can't just clutch to a creature and just have it work out. But the idea that you can just Spider-Man to these monsters and make dents in them so that you can damage them later brings a real interesting strategy element to the game that it didn't have before. Pros. This game's satisfaction level is off the charts. When you hunt a monster, stalk the monster, and bring the monster down by any means necessary, I can't tell you what a warm fuzzy feeling you get. And the amount of ways you can go about it are just near infinite. There are bombs you can get, there are traps you can get, there are things for your slinger ammo. You can just go in guns blazing with your weapons. There's so many ways to play and ways to attack a monster that it always makes you feel like you won, like you outsmarted the creature and you brought it down. And I can't tell you how awesome that is every time it happens. Sticking to the Iceborne focal point, they have really done a huge number on the movement abilities. Your characters feel more fluid in fights, and there's more ability to be varied in your attacks and movements, from allowing you to shoot slinger ammo with your weapon drawn to the new moves that move seamlessly into the combos, extending them. They also, at least I was only able to play with my favorite weapon, which is the hunting horn. I just didn't have time to do all of them. But one thing that I absolutely love about it is they definitely focused on the weapon itself, and I'm assuming they did this with all the weapons. They really looked at, how do we make this weapon more like this? I find myself immediately already less like, playing my notes off in a corner than going in with the fight. They made it easier with this kind of like, with the echo notes, they made it easier to flawlessly combo through into your notes while in fighting, and that's just the feeling that I've always wanted. To kill this guy with a guitar or a bagpipe is just, it's the best. So that thing, those quality of life improvements are huge, absolutely huge. I mean, this game, they have literally taken this game and basically said, instead of making a whole new game, we're just going to make the sequel into this game. That's the size and scope of this expansion. So when people are upset about the price being $40, they should really just think about the fact that this is basically the sequel. It's in the game, and you can just play it with the character you already have, and that's really awesome. And I wish more games would do that. I love that kind of thing where the game just, okay, we're just gonna put the next game in this game, and it's just amazing. Just amazing what they've done with this. So, all of that said, we got to do the cons. And this is going to get real nitpicky because this game is amazing. I think this game deserves all the fanfare, and if this wasn't a straight expansion, I would say this should be in the Game of the Year discussions again. So, that being said, cons. Here we go. My first con is with all these upgrades and changes to your weapons and your armor and whatnot, they have really ramped up the difficulty. And now look, this is not going to be a con for a lot of people. It wasn't a con for me. I was pleasantly surprised to be challenged. However, they only recommend that you need to be at Hunter rank 16 to actually be able to play this stuff. That's where it unlocks. And I cannot imagine anybody at Hunter rank 16 being able to do anything in this. I am at level 37 with all the tricks and accoutrement that comes with, and I have had a seriously difficult time taking down some of these creatures. So that being said, I feel like that's a little bit of false advertising, or maybe they should have restricted it a little bit more towards later endgame players. I understand they don't want to do that because they want people to buy it, and people aren't going to buy it if they're like, well, I'm only, 15 or whatever. That's not enough to bring me back into the game. So I get it, but at the same time, I feel like those players are going to be very, very upset with the experience that they enjoy or lack thereof. My second con is this game does put you in a precarious situation, which is if you're an endgame player at this point, you have a very specific build to what you want. Now, if you're not a super endgame player, which means you're not like up there in the like 80s or hundreds of Hunter rank, but you're a player a little bit lower with just kind of good stuff, but you have a specific build that you like, this game's going to mess with you because the master rank armor basically starts over with the master rank armor being stuff you can get that has better defense, but you're not going to be able to get your builds because your builds are Elder Dragon stuff, and you're not going to want to go in and fight Elder Dragons on master rank at the level you're going in at. So it creates an interesting situation. I find myself having a real hard time deciding whether to get the low level new stuff just for the defense boost or whether to not mess with my build at all. So that's a little tricky. The other thing is too, with the master rank, instead of like necessarily putting it into the game, and I don't know how they would, but they just jam all the creatures into a section for optional master rank whatever if it's not a new creature or a new subspecies. So one thing that kind of blows is like, I don't want to, before I get to the new stuff, go back and farm all the creatures I've already farmed on a new difficulty level in order to get my build right, which is a little irritating. So I'm kind of fumbling through, and I feel like I don't know how they'd fix that, honestly, but I gotta be nitpicky, so I'm nitpicking. This brings us to my final con. This is a real weird one, and I gotta put it out there just because of what I experienced when this happened. When I originally bought Monster Hunter World, I played it for some time. I traded in the base copy when it came to Games Pass, and I played it digitally on Games Pass for some time. Now, when Iceborne was going to come out, I decided to pre-order it in a physical copy because I wanted a physical disc, and they had a bundle with the original game and Iceborne together in one disc. I got the game, I brought it home, I put it in. No update was needed because the update had already installed. But because I had the Games Pass version, but not the digital version of the expansion, it wouldn't recognize that I had the expansion. So I literally had to uninstall the game and reinstall the whole thing, which, when you've got a kid who's going to sleep for 2 hours and you realize you have to have that happen and it takes an hour to reinstall it, it's a little bit of a herder. And it's just a rough problem. So if you're somebody out there who had that who is in that kind of weird situation and you want to own the physical copy but you only have the digital, uninstall it before you bring the game home. And then when you bring the game home, just stick it in because you're gonna have to reinstall it. Okay. And then the final question, am I gonna stick with it? Hell yeah, I'm gonna stick with it. Hell, I got a Let's Play coming just about Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter World is Sometimes it can be overcomplicated, sometimes it can alienate casual players, doesn't matter. This game is absolutely the creme de la creme of monster hunting games. Nothing holds a candle to it, and I like Dauntless. It's fine. It's nothing compared to Monster Hunter World. I'm sorry to say that. I might get some hate, but it's true. If you want the Monster Hunter experience, this is the game you need to pick up and you need to play. I'm going to be playing this game as long as I am able to play this game. So, alright guys, that's my review of Iceborne. Next week, you know what I'm doing. It's gonna be Borderlands 3, and I'm super excited to do that one. But for now, this is the horrible review for the week. Of course, check out everything my channel has to offer. Check out a Horrible Podcast, like me on Facebook, subscribe and like here on YouTube, and I will endeavor to answer every comment on either platform. And as long as you guys keep watching these, I will keep making them. Till next time. Did you enjoy that horrible content? Well, there's more horrible content all over this channel. You can check out our horrible podcasts, or you can check out our other horrible reviews. Be sure to subscribe and turn notifications on, and then we'll let you know when horrible products are ready for you to view. You can also do so at Facebook, Old Man Gaming. And then we can notify you in 2 different places. Fun! Also, click any of the links around you to witness some of that horrible programming right now. I mean, why do anything else? It's YouTube.